Today we've learned the lessons of history. I know that in the days leading up to the summit, some of you in the press, some commentators confused honest and open debate with irreconcilable differences. But after weeks of preparation and 2 days of careful negotiation, we have agreed on a series of unprecedented steps to restore growth and prevent a crisis like this from happening again.
President Obama there in London speaking with reporters on Thursday. Here's what some of the media are saying about his overseas sojourn. The Guardian, a London-based paper, ran this headline on Wednesday. Where is the new JFK we expected? He's stuck in a rut with Gordon Brown. Back at home, American media are a little more fawning. This from the Washington Post. In London, a jam-packed schedule for Obama. On first trip to Europe since taking office, President is a dynamo of diplomacy and charm ahead of G20 summit. All right, Bill, you are watching the coverage of the G20 summit along with everybody else, but you're in Washington. Give us your take on how the American media especially covered it.
The American media basically gushed and fawned over President Obama, and the real reason is because he's not George W. Bush. And the reason that doesn't make any sense is if you look at the issues, such as Iraq, Afghanistan, the economy. Let's break this down. Iraq. That is an issue owned by George W. Bush. That's the issue that everybody was hating on him for, and yet it's actually going well. But when you look at the two issues that aren't going well, Afghanistan and the economy, both owned by Barack Obama by virtue of his initiatives in the first couple months in office, and yet still the press fawns over him, even though he's not presiding over issues very well.
I can't tell if Judy's about to agree with you or beat you over the head.
I'm about to disagree because I think by the end of this summit, both the American media and the European media were in full fawn. I mean, this was an extraordinary performance. What happened, that is the great walkout of Sarkozy, did not happen. Never mind that he didn't get anything that he really wanted on the fiscal stimulus side. He got $1 trillion for the IMF. They spun it into a great success. And look, the camera loves him. The camera loves her. They were the first couple, and it was a bravuro performance.
At his news conference, Jim, he was asked, basically, how'd you do? He says, I think we did okay.
He actually said, I think I did okay.
I think I did okay. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the beauty of it, he can afford to be modest since we all agree the press is falling all over him. Look, and I can understand why Chris Matthews would say, quote, he is the new us, which is, you know, but because Chris Matthews and MSNBC and General Electric are on the government payroll. Of course they're praising. I don't know why the rest of them who are about to get laid off, why they're praising him too.
You're talking about the bailout. I mean, General Electric.
General Electric getting $139 billion from the government last year. $139 billion.
I don't think you need to pay off Chris Matthews to like Barack Obama at this point. I think you'd do it for free.
The leg is still tingling.
I know. But I think I was interested to watch the coverage. It was almost as if the president's trip was going as well as the media who were covering him, and I did see a difference, particularly in the networks, kind of left, right, center, as you would expect. And I kind of marveled that you could just change the channel, and the trip was going from bad to worse to much, much better. So I think it was in the eye of the beholder.
What about all the protesters, Jim? I mean, some people suggest that if the media weren't there, or television at least, you wouldn't see such mayhem in the streets.
I think that's an endemic problem to the media age. If you throw a rock through a window, you will get on TV, and that's just a moral hazard that, frankly, the media anywhere they go in the world can't really solve.
Because when you look at some of these pictures, you know, them smashing the windows at the Royal Bank of Scotland, for instance, there are more cameras being held up in the air than bobbies with nightsticks.
It's a sort of unhealthy symbiotic relationship where the press carries the protest shots because they're more interesting than having a bunch of talking heads in business suits shaking hands at the actual meeting, and then the protesters carry on and act up because they're surrounded by cameras.
Yes. Talking about meetings, there was the meeting with the Queen. The Obamas spent, what, 2 hours with her? Did the press make too much of that?
Well, that was kind of an extraordinary meeting, and I have to say that the Michelle Obama embrace of the Queen, thank goodness she didn't curtsy. After all, we did win the revolution, you know, we did it. But the fact that she put her arms around her and the Queen withdrew, and yet the press did not pick up on that. They said the Queen loved Michelle Obama, and in fact, towards the end of the meeting, the Queen put her arm around Michelle Obama, so it goes down as a great victory. By the way, I think that, if anything, Michelle Obama shone even brighter in terms of the media spotlight on this trip.
She got a lot of
than her
ink for her
husband.
fashion.
She did, and the test, though, is how Cindy McCain would have been covered. I mean, if Cindy McCain had been in the identical situation, would NBC News, back to General Electric and the bailout again, have played the Andy Williams song "Can't Take My Eyes Off You" during the footage?
We're going to
She
talk
brings different assets to the table.
We're going to talk fashion during the break, and if you want to hear what we're saying about Mrs. Obama's fashions or whatever else, go to our website, foxnews.com/FoxNewsWatch, and we'll be back in 2 minutes with this.